Hey guys, welcome back to What's Up With That. And as promised, here's part 2 of our discussion. But a lot of people are worried about it though, still, you know.
There's technical problems, right? For example, you hear stories of guys like they send the bitcoins and or they lost the password and they never get to see their millions. That actually happens. You send it to a wrong address, it just disappears. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no company to call to recover.
But it's on a public ledger, that transaction, isn't it?
But you got no access. You need a private key to access it, your wallet, right? So it's protected that way. So if you lose your private key, there is absolutely no way to retrieve it. And that happens. You have no idea how many bitcoins are in the market which can never be accessed anymore, right? Never. Like no one has access to it.
So what, they're just floating around?
Forever, yeah. Because they lost the private key.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
And then there's already, as it is, a limited amount of bitcoins out there anyway.
Yes. And that's the problem. It's mostly a technical problem. Like I would say for most people, if you're buying from a legitimate source, you know, you shouldn't have any fear that Bitcoin is a scam or whatever. At this juncture, at this point in time, if you still worry about Bitcoin is a scam, you're just uninformed because already too big to be a scam, really.
No, but the people who think that Bitcoin, especially because it's been out in the financial news like crazy anyway.
Yeah,
people would believe that Bitcoin is a scam, probably believe that the earth is flat and the vaccination is actually 5G related or whatever it is, right? But for you, someone like you, someone comes to you and says stuff like that, cryptocurrency is dodgy, I don't know what, like everybody who's into it is actually MLM. You know, what do you say to them?
It's going to be weird to say, but I normally don't say anything.
Really?
I don't find it a point to argue with people. Normally, people who approach me with that kind of statement has their mindset fixed already.
Yeah.
There's a difference with a guy coming to me and say, hey, man, can you explain this to me? Which I get a lot. So I get a lot of calls, like when the NFT thing was skyrocketing, right?
Yeah.
So many of clients or friends say, hey, man, do you know anything about this NFT thing? Can you tell me about it? And I'll tell them, like, I'll give them my time, explain to them. No problem, because I'm an advocate, right? But when people come to you, this is a scam, cannot want to. I don't waste my time convincing people.
Yeah, because they want you to try and convince them so they can just have an argument with you in many cases, right? So that means you don't want to waste your time with naysayers anyway.
Yeah. Well, I would say let's take a simple journey for you to invest into Bitcoin, for example, right? So the most straightforward thing is you can download things like Luno, put in some cash, buy Bitcoin straight.
Yeah.
And Luno has a kind of semi-hidden function that you can trade, right? Within
really?
itself.
I don't know. I don't have that.
Luno you can account. Check it out. I actually didn't know that Luno actually had a trading platform thing inside the app.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
where?
You only see just the 50, 100 ringgit thing at the main page, right? But actually, if you press the little 3-dot button on the top right, you can actually choose an exchange, which allows you to see the trading platform view. I don't know why they designed it so that it was not very intuitive. Like even for me as a user for a long time, I only realized it like months or a year later that they actually had an exchange platform. I mean, the point is that you can just use that. You can trade Luno. You can trade against ringgit, buy, sell on Luno itself. It's fine, right? So that's actually the very easy way to get into it right now.
Right.
I would have to tip to these companies. They've done quite generally intuitive, although maybe the exchange thing was kind of hidden. But other than that, I think they made it very easy for people to just buy Bitcoin, put it in Luno, price goes up, you can sell it.
Yeah.
Simple, right?
$50 or it's like, I think it's like 50, 100 and other. They always tell you other, you can put in your amount and everything. Yeah. That's amazing because it's fun. It's like a game. I mean, it's an adult. You need to be of sane mind to do it. I don't know who would actually want to get into this, to be honest with you, but it's actually quite easy to get into.
A lot of gamblers like it. They look at the crypto Bitcoin prices like a casino. So well, I'm jesting, but I do know many people who, for the last 5 years, all they do is just live off crypto trading. They don't need to do anything else. Okay. So it's an industry that's very lucrative, both in terms of the business side and the trading side. And there are many avenues. Like another way of looking at it is like some people I've met, they say, I want to be in this industry, but I don't know anything technical. And I don't know anything technical. I can't code to save my life. But People have marketing expertise, you have business development expertise, you've got graphic design expertise, which you can apply to the crypto space. So I've known some people who made a lot of money just because they were doing PR for crypto companies and they charged in Bitcoin, right?
Interesting.
They actually charged in Bitcoin. So instead of taking cash, and the thing is, because the unique thing about crypto or blockchain companies is that they are all over the world, which means that our thought of working for a crypto company is like, oh, like working for Google. That's totally wrong. When you want to work for a big crypto company, let's pick a big one. Let's say Coinbase, which just got listed on the exchange in the US, right?
Right.
New York Stock Exchange. Their company, they may have a central company, but they've got representatives all over the world, for example, right? They're like two guys in one country or representative, or one guy here, one guy there. They've probably got a designer all the way in Asia, even though they're an American-based company, right?
Right.
So crypto companies all work like that. They have guys everywhere in the world. They don't really have ginormous offices. Everyone works remote, right? So funny thing is, a lot of people want to have remote working life, but they don't want to go into blockchain companies.
Right, right.
Which is very strange.
That's the one to work for.
Yeah, they are the ones who, because of crypto is easy for cross-border transactions. If you know how to take, like me, like I have, okay, so a lot of my clients, they are now forced to take USDT. USDT is basically a crypto US dollar, right?
Okay.
Because they don't want the fluctuations. So they take USDT. But they don't know how to sell USDT in Malaysia for cash because there's no avenue for it legally right now.
Right.
Okay. You have to use USDT, use a different exchange in some other country, maybe buy Bitcoin, move Bitcoin to Luno, sell Bitcoin via Luno for cash. It's a very complicated process for most people, right? But if you can get over the tech hurdle, it becomes very lucrative, right? Oh, one event, I charge you one Bitcoin. The Bitcoin you charge at that time was probably 10,000 US dollars. Today, it's 60,000 US dollars if you didn't spend it all. So, and I know people who did that. So they go into the industry, they bring their own expertise because they're still companies, but everything is remote. Like blockchain companies are designed to be remote first.
Yeah.
Right? And you can be anywhere. And we are Asian, right? We're Malaysian, which means if you deal with someone from Hong Kong, Europe, US, we are cheap as shit, okay?
Right.
we are dirt cheap, all right?
Yeah.
Nothing to them, right? But we can make money that way. So
yeah.
That's another way if people want to participate is learn to charge in crypto, right? That's actually.
Do I get taxed though if I get paid in crypto, like in Bitcoin? How do I get taxed by that?
Well, there are a lot of ways. You can voluntarily be taxed if you're making a lot of money, be a good citizen, right? You can declare it as income, right? Or you can be sneaky like most people. They actually leave their cryptos in some wallet and they only take out what they need. They only sell when they need money. Which is what a lot of people globally, I'm not saying I know many people in Malaysia who do that or anything, but globally, that's what they do. So it's hard. Some companies or countries try to tax Bitcoin, but here's the thing. If let's say you had one Bitcoin and now it's 60,000, so looks like you made a lot of profit, right?
Yeah.
Most countries have a law that says that capital gains are not taxed, like Malaysia. So even if I got Bitcoin today, which is at $5,000, and I held the Bitcoin, and then now the Bitcoin is worth $60,000. In theory, based on the law, you can't tax me for it.
Yep.
Right? That gain, you can't tax me for it, right? So that's the situation right now. Would that change? Probably. I mean, the moment a regulator hears, wow, there's so much money being paid out in Bitcoin and all that, they're going to try and tax you somehow.
Yeah.
So that will happen, I think, eventually.
How will that means? Will the world's central banks, or in our case, Bank Negara Malaysia, does it need to support the use of crypto before the taxation gets to start, or how would that work?
It's very complex because it's actually untraceable. That's the issue, right? I can send you a Bitcoin right now, no one would ever know.
And banks want everything to be traced, obviously, right? Yeah, they need that. Yeah.
So there are certain tokens which there is some traceability, but it's just by wallet addresses. And I could have 50 wallet addresses that you don't know I own. So traceability is very difficult, right? So probably there'll be like wallet registrations with governments or whatever. We don't know. Everyone's trying to figure it out right now. I can't say that there's one good way. And that's why it's still very much a cowboy scenario and why
I imagine the mafia must love this.
Mafia is probably the biggest users.
Right? The mafia, the triads and everything. Oh my God.
I mean, like probably they say this AK-47 is one Bitcoin or something.
That's why it's so popular on the dark web.
Yeah, it's easy. I mean, that's also the issue, and I think that's also the reason why governments are having a problem saying, "Hey, let's just embrace Bitcoin," right?
Yeah.
The countries that have done it are the dodgier countries.
Because of yeah, exactly. And the stigma that's still attached to it, right? But
not really a stigma, lah. It's just that they can't trace it.
Yeah.
They can't control it. And that's always the problem.
Because we have, like you talk about USDT and everything, right? Because there are digital currencies running right now that's controlled by the central banks and everything. Will there ever be a point where, you know what? Fuck the central banks. Fuck banks. We'll do it all on cryptocurrency. Will it ever come to a point where it's going to be like that, you think?
It's partly heading that direction, but central banks themselves are stepping in. So like China introduced their digital yuan, which is crypto-based, right? So it's where sovereign countries will start issuing their own cryptocurrencies themselves, and they would outlaw certain things. Like at one point, I don't know if it still is, China has banned Bitcoins anyway, before the launch of the digital yuan. So I don't think that has changed. It's still technically illegal, but China is still one of the biggest users of Bitcoin, right? So it's that kind of situation right now where governments are trying to force their control, and that also drives people to want Bitcoin, because you can just ask any businessman now, right? If they can hide their money, they would probably want to, because they want to avoid taxes, right? So if things come in as crypto, no one would ever know, which is why there are many businesses that are still very cash-based. They don't declare it. You can't trace it because he's just holding the cash, putting it under his pillow, right? And it's going to have that kind of role as well for cryptos. And that's going to prove challenging for most governments. So we can't say who wins at the end of the day. Most governments look like their main goal is to regulate it. To put control mechanisms. Others completely outlaw it. So there's no real clarity there. I would say that probably very likely, I first and foremost, I don't think Bitcoin is going to be there forever. Right? That's a bold claim. I may be completely wrong, but I don't think it's going to be there forever.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to remember this little chat that we had, and then we're going to see like in 20 years time, holy shit, George was right.
Well, for one thing, it doesn't serve its purpose as a currency. Right? To me, Ethereum is probably a better long-term bet. Ethereum. And the
technology, from a technology standpoint, it's a bit more current. It's better.
Yes, tech-wise, it's not the best. There are probably others that are better, but in terms of the number of adoption and the fact that almost 90% of new projects are built on Ethereum. So Ethereum becomes that backbone for a lot of new blockchain development, right? The developers for Ethereum, the number of developers that build on Ethereum are also a lot more in the market, right? Easily, they can look for them. And there's way more support, etc. So to me, eventually, Bitcoin may still kind of keep working, but they'll reach a point where miners will just phase out, right? Because it becomes less profitable to mine or something like that, because the processing power keeps reducing.
Or we're all going to be dead because they contributed to global warming
from that, you know. And at the same time, but in terms of Ethereum, where they are going through more developments, like, okay, so Bitcoin has problems, right? But nobody can solve it. And they make forks of Bitcoin, which it's not successful. People are not going into the forks, so to speak. Whereas Ethereum, they've got way more people developing solutions for the problems. It does have similar problems as Bitcoin, but there are solutions in the pipeline.
Is it because we really don't know who created Bitcoin? Is that one of the problems?
Personally, I would say yes. Now, as much as we like to say we don't want to have a central authority, right? But Ethereum has Vitalik, who made Ethereum, right? So no matter whether or not he has any actual control, when he talks, people will listen. Because he made Ethereum. And that helps when you want to get a lot of people to agree on something. Because in order for you to make wholesale changes or upgrades or something to a particular blockchain, you actually need, it's called a consensus mechanism. You need the majority of people to agree, right? In order for you to do anything, right? And if there's no one single guy who's steering it, it's never going to happen. Everyone's got their own opinion, right? And I think that in the case of Bitcoin, unfortunately, because there's no figurehead, there's no someone who is like Satoshi Nakamoto is
it's not a real person.
There's so many theories that it's a group of person, it's this particular guy in jail. To me, everything is still speculation. That you don't have a truth, right? But the lack of that really affects it. Whereas there's a lot of leaders or drivers in the Ethereum network. So to me, even personally, I'm more bullish on that in the long run. So, but that's a dissenting opinion. Bitcoin guys would probably disagree, but
right.
We'll see how it plays out in the next 3 decades.
We'll see how that S curve works out, right? But you know what? To be honest with you, globally, even in Malaysia, because we always talk about how slow things happen in Malaysia, right? To be very honest with you, for a country, for a people, for a group of people who are very cash heavy, very credit card dependent, and very used to swiping for or getting personal loans to go get a wedding. Suddenly, they're getting into like Boost and e-wallets. We have gotten into some kind of fintechy e-wallet centric mindset, right? I mean, even in Malaysia where it's so slow.
I think that in terms of adoption of technology, Malaysians tend to be very fast. So there's a big difference between adoption and what's that called, investment, for example.
Right.
So I would say that as once it goes mainstream in Malaysia and if it makes sense, there's enough people using it, adoption is very high. It's like how Malaysia are like the top 5 in terms of YouTube consumption, but we are nowhere in terms of YouTube creators. You know, that kind of thing?
Right.
We are very big consumers of technology. It's a known fact. Our average data line per person in Malaysia, and that's including babies, I think it's like 2 lines. We don't realize it, but when you add up to it, right, we actually are very digital centric. But the problem with Malaysians is we are always just the consumer. We just use, we just spend, but we are not in the areas of creating and making, right? Or earning from this. We're just very good at consuming. So that's the challenge. So if you ask me, if let's say the SC approves a crypto wallet payment solution, which can pay with Bitcoin, all that, come out a Visa card with Bitcoin, which I did have from 10x from Singapore, but it doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Of course, it got clamped down. But let's just say Malaysia does it. There's a Visa card with Bitcoin. I will tell you, a lot of people will be using it.
Right.
For sure. But how many companies can successfully do a Visa card integration with a Bitcoin wallet and make that whole transaction? I've tried to work that out before with Visa in Singapore. So I kind of know how it works. So, but for companies to go to that level, the first person who does it well would be King. In 2018, I think, the SC, at that time, our finance minister, I shall not name names, everybody knows anyway, it's just declared that all cryptos were securities, like a blanket.
Correct, yeah.
Everything was made illegal overnight. Yep. Actually, to me, that killed the industry for Malaysia, for creation, because it was too restrictive and people didn't feel like they could even do development or investment into it. So it killed it off for a while, right? Until when they got the DAX license out, okay, then it started to come back. So I also think that partly it's regulation. Our regulators, it's probably going to get me in trouble, but should not be too quick to outlaw things.
The future of cryptocurrency, obviously, this is where we're definitely heading. But how much is going to be adopted? Who's going to be in the lead? We really don't know. Yeah. But in Malaysia, in Southeast Asia, maybe, what's the immediate future like for cryptocurrency? Where do you see us going in the next probably like 5 to 10 years?
Okay, well, I think in the case of Malaysian context, I think the IO operator license is going to be very, very important that we applied for. I'm very serious about that, because the moment that gets approved, it allows people to start creating their own cryptos. They can start tagging assets,
Jantan coins,
Jantan coin. You can do it very legally, and there's an avenue for that for smaller businesses to get into the game. It really starts with the entrepreneurs, right? So to me, that is an important catalyst. That's a very important role, and I hope that it comes out quick so that Malaysia can really get in the game. That's Malaysia lah. When it comes to Southeast Asia, actually, I think a lot of the other countries are ahead of us. But it's all down to the regulators. So if the regulators looked at it positively, created an avenue for businesses to grow, then Southeast Asia will be a very big powerhouse, because a lot of the Europeans and American projects want to come to Southeast Asia. Yeah. They want to come here. They want to set up shop.
Because they're cheap.
we are cheap, but we have talent,
Yeah.
right? And we are actually quite tech forward, despite how the image of Southeast Asia is like.
Yeah.
So but they always find it difficult, right? There's a lot of challenges in place. So if we can pull down those barriers, right, I think Malaysia in particular would do very, very well.
For people who entrepreneurs or just general public, right? If they want to find out more about cryptocurrency, besides watching this particular episode on this podcast, and also, do they look for you? How do they? If you want to find out more, how did you get more information about this?
I guess if they want to have a local resource to find out about cryptos, I think there are just two good ones that I can say. One is join the Bitcoin Malaysia Facebook group. They're probably the largest community. The page is a good resource. Most people are very actively sharing. I'm there as well. So that's one good resource. It's on Facebook. The other one is if they're more of an enterprise level and they want to get involved on a business level, they could consider joining like Access Malaysia, which is like a blockchain association. So it's not expensive. And I think that gets you in there. Like we tokenize, we joined it as well. And I think that would be good resources because they are doing things proper. So I can vouch for these guys because I have dealt with them personally.
Right.
People only find me if they want to build something because my expertise, despite saying all this, my primary expertise is building businesses around it, right? So like there's a lot of people with great tech ideas, but they don't have a way to design it so that it makes sense in the business, right? So that's where I usually come in.
Right. So from a cryptocurrency advocate or blockchain advisor standpoint, right? I want to get some thoughts from you about Jantans in general, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Because ultimately, the point of this show, the point of this little discussion is to make men and make Jantans better versions of themselves, right? So do you have any tips you can share for Jantans from an investing point of view? From, how do we get to that level where we can say, you know what, Malaysia is like the hub for investments, How do we get there for Jantan specifically?
For Jantans, man up and learn it lah. And I think Jantans here especially seem to, and I'm talking about, I argue with men mostly. I find women in Malaysia, right, more willing to learn.
Right. Yeah.
It's the guys that argue with me, and that frustrates me. It's like,
so the problem with Jantans is that we're just too pig-headed, is it?
We make excuses, I guess, to learn it.
Right.
And I have to say, I was one of them. Like I used to swear I would never trade the stock market. Right. But after I stopped being pig-headed, I studied it. I studied how to read charts, cryptos as well. I actually do very well, right? It's just a matter of not giving ourselves excuses. So I think that's one. And then on the more of a life thing, don't go and meet women and talk about Bitcoin. That's the other thing, because that's a total buzzkill. I don't know how many times I've met people, I'll say that, hey, yeah, I'm in this. They're like, oh, you're not going to talk to me about Bitcoin, right? I'm like, no, okay, I'm not going to. But Jantans, please don't do that. It's not helping us out.
Is that a pickup line that guys use nowadays?
There's a myth, right? I don't know whether it's true, but they say that that's a very powerful pickup line in Russia. Yeah.
Really?
Like okay, this was earlier days, like in 2016, 2017, right? Like Russian women were the first to pick up that Russians with Bitcoins or guys with Bitcoins were money.
Right.
So that was this saying, I don't know how true it is.
So guys, don't be Russian into it. But you know what? Any final advice for everyone who's actually watching this about cryptocurrency, mainly for the Jantans, for this?
Well, I think final advice would be is that if you want to look into investing into it, look at it this year. This year is the year where, the rallies would occur, the big highs would occur, and your chance of making money is really this year. Don't be a laggard, sit there and just wonder, because next year comes when the crash does eventually occur, then, you miss out on the window. In fact, I think a lot of, in the financial space, for a lot of my friends as well, I've been telling them that this year is a really important year, right? There's a big chance of financial crash, and if you're not prepared, we either lose the money that we've made, right? But we can also capitalize on all this to make money in cryptos or whatever. So this year is a very important year financially, and cryptos are a very good way to make money if you know what you're doing. So if they haven't started learning about it yet, they should, because cryptocurrencies and blockchains is the next 10 years basically is where it's going to really come into play. So you don't want to be the laggard, right? if we are in early, we stand to benefit a lot, whether it's business, whether it's investment, right? And this year is like, if no other year you looked into it, this year is the year to start.
Because
I mean this seriously, yeah.
Just seems like it's COVID proof in a way, does it?
It is very well. You can do it at home, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like for example, I don't invest too much, but I made 50% in my previous month, and the previous rally I made 1,000%, right? In a short span of time. So I'm growing my wealth that way, quietly. But I started with a very small base, right? And a lot of people think that we can't grow our wealth if we have a small base, right?
Yeah.
But that's not true. Cryptocurrencies is one of those ways where with a small base, you can actually, what's that called, make a lot of money. And you can increase your base very quickly, right? In order to play with the big boys. But if we don't take that step, even with a small base, if we look down on having a 500 ringgit or 1,000 ringgit of a Bitcoin, and then you will stay there. That's all I can say.
This is the time for you to get into it. If you don't understand anything they've said, watch this show again, because there's a lot of information that George has told us. I want to have a chat with you, and I say, George, I need some help. I think I fucked up on my investments with cryptocurrency. Then we're going to have to get into that again, right?
Sure. More than happy to. Just don't fuck up.
Awesome. George, thanks so much, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, guys, hope you enjoyed that little chat we had with George about cryptocurrency. Did you learn anything new in that discussion? I know I did. It was brilliant. Did we miss anything? Maybe you'd like to tell us all about it. Leave your comments in the section down below. But ultimately, though, this was a great chat. Thanks to you for watching. And of course, always remember, don't be a dick.